Hi, everyone. My name is Dana, and this is episode 30 of the Ask a Question Show, the show in which you ask a question about any type of narcissistic or otherwise abusive or toxic relationship or situation. And I, along with the rest of the community here, will do our very best to help answer it. Our goal is to give you the feedback and the support that you need so that you can move forward in getting the clarity, the closure, and the healing that you so deserve. And so today's question comes from Susan, which is actually not her real name. And you'll see why here in a second. But Susan says, "Dear Dana, I have two children. They're young teenagers with my ex-husband, who is a famous athlete. His popularity adds an extra layer of complexity to my situation. He is very well connected, he's charming, he's convincing, and he goes to great lengths to appear like the victim of our divorce and loves to do interviews about our marriage and divorce for magazines, newspapers, you name it. He is everything you think of when you think of a narcissist. He's a know-it-all, he exploits other people, he lacks empathy, he lacks remorse. Everything is all about him and his public appearance. He's put me through hell over the last 10 years. After everything we've been through, he left me and a month later remarried his girlfriend, and they had a baby last year. We are always in court as he doesn't feel he should have to pay as much in child support as he does. He also tells the kids that he doesn't have any money either. Lately, my youngest child has been acting out a lot. He's developed a bad temper and has been yelling, hitting, and getting into fights. I have him seeing a child psychologist. My question is, how should I act with him? How do I explain to my kids that their father is really a sick person and that they cannot count on him?" Okay, Susan, thank you so much for your question. Yes, you do have quite the layer of complexity to your situation. So, a couple things. Again, this is just my opinion. It's not gospel truth. And there's going to hopefully be a lot more opinions from other people down below in the comments. And hopefully we'll hear from some people that have gone through a divorce with a highly manipulative person like your ex, and who can give you feedback as far as dealing, working with kids that are in this dynamic and kind of how to do damage control as well as how to clean up the damage that's been done. So for sure, check back periodically and just check the comments. But okay, so what I would say about this, kids handle trauma differently than adults do. And I'm giving you my 2 cents on this because I used to work with at-risk kids, and I used to work with kids in different group home situations that they were an alternative to juvenile hall. And so I worked with kids that were in this age group. And so I learned a lot of things there that I hopefully can kind of help you today. So, one thing was, okay, so these kids process trauma differently, and in large part they don't have the emotional maturity that adults have. They don't have the coping skills that healthy adults have. They don't have the vocabulary to be able to articulate exactly what's going on with them. They just know that they have hurt feelings, and that hurt just radiates out into their world in kind of one of two different ways. They tend to really externalize it. They're getting in fights, they're lashing out at others, or they internalize it, and you can see a lot of self-destructive behaviors that it looks like, thankfully, your kids aren't doing that. So that's at least a good sign, because that self-destructive behaviors are oftentimes the most damaging. So with your kids, I would try to, definitely anticipate what your ex is going to do, what he's going to say. It sounds like you already have a pretty good feel for that, what he's, giving these interviews and saying all kinds of hurtful things. My guess is there's probably kids at school are also saying stuff about what's going on in their life, because it's so public. So I would anticipate that, and I would try to react accordingly. And I would view a lot of their behaviors in terms of they have a lot of really understandable hurt. Their dad has upped and moved on. He's left your family. He started a new family with this new woman where they now have a baby, and the baby's their center of attention, and he's telling his your kids that basically they're not important, that he doesn't have any money, and he's kind of the implication that there's some sort of burden on him, which is incredibly painful, right? And even kids whose parents are happily married tend to not react well. You see a lot of behaviors kick up when there's a new baby, because it just totally changes the dynamic of everything. And so I would say to try to open up communication with your kids as much as possible. Again, even if, your kids, even if there's not craziness going on, I would just, again, from my experience working with teenagers that were in and out of trouble. I highly recommend this for all parents to do, because it really does wonders as far as preventing behaviors. So doing things where, you're facilitating time where conversations can arise, such as some simple things like eating dinner as a family, every single night, not letting things slide. And I know everybody probably has their own routine. This is kind of the year 2015. This is people, they watched it in front of the TV, or they're on their phone or whatever. And to move in the effort of, or the direction of, this is going to be our family time. And then during time around the table, you guys starting to talk about how your day was. And so one of the techniques that we used when working with at-risk kids was, there was a fun little game that we used to play called High Low. And so the point of the game was to talk about what was the high point of our day, and then what was the low point of our day. And then kind of just giving kids that space to say as much or as little as they want to. And so for kids that are not used to talking about their feelings or even identifying it, they're probably going to be really even maybe resistant to that. They might say, oh, this is stupid, or this isn't, I don't care, I don't want to talk, or they're going to be maybe defiant. The younger one might not be as much, but, to just leave that time and then just start modeling that behavior. So if you don't want to participate, that's totally fine. But then just giving them an outlet that if they want to participate, then they can. And so just, kind of making that effort. Because you have two kids, you might also want to do something too, where maybe, somehow able, if the kids, I don't know what their dynamic is with their visitation with their dad, but if they're going there at the same time, if you can somehow arrange to have some alone time with each child, however, you feel that would work out best, maybe an hour or two, maybe it's on like a Wednesday after school when the other one has soccer practice or whatever, where maybe, you take the one child out and you go out for a soda or something, or you go for a walk. It doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be anything, but something that kind of one-on-one time where you guys can just kind of hang out and then just establish that rapport with each kid one-on-one. You could do other things like, family adventure time. And on Saturdays, one kid gets to pick something for the first half of the day. And then after lunch, that's this other child's the half of the day. And then, the whole goal is to spend time as a family, that people are, you don't have to necessarily like everything that we're going to do, but you do need to participate, because this is important, that we're family and this is what we do. And then the whole kind of purpose of all of this is to let the kids know that they do have power and control over their environment, right? They get to have a say in like an age appropriate way, right? As far as like what you're okay with having a say over, which might mean what they're going to do on a Saturday, or maybe different choices with what your guys are going to have for dinner, or something, so that they realize that, that they do have some sort of power and control over their life, and also letting them know that they are loved, that they are valued, that they are appreciated, and that, and who knows too, what they're hearing from other kids in school, or what they're reading in the paper, or what their dad is saying, that there's a very solid chance that they are manipulated by him, and that they do think that you are the bad guy in the situation, right? That you're the one that broke up the home. And to kind of reframe things and just say, you know what, kids, and I would just address it. You guys are probably reading a lot of things. You're probably hearing a lot of things from your dad and other people, and it's okay. We don't need to talk about this. I just want you to know that there's two sides of the story, that there's a lot of stuff that went on, and to try to not get like locked into that conflict of painting the picture of the dad as a bad guy, or even sick, because the kids are kind of too young to understand that. That's hard to even wrap your mind around at any age, let alone, being young teenagers. So if anything, I would maybe even kind of go the opposite route of that and just say, you know what, guys, there's a lot of things that are really great about your dad, but there's a lot of things that you're probably, he can really say a lot of really hurtful things. And I'm sorry that he's saying stuff like this. That's really not cool of him. And, how does this make you feel? And what can we do? We don't have control over stuff that he does or says. But, all we have control over is our reactions to it. And to, I guess, really kind of not rely on your ex to follow through with things. And so to kind of not get kids' hopes up about their time with their dad, and to just kind of always provide a hug or a shoulder for them to cry on if he's continuing to like let them down and not be there. And he's probably going to be, spending money and time on his new family, and then just kind of like letting them go, because that's kind of what these people do. So, and then as they get older, kind of talking about the more mature they get, the more mature your conversations will get. And so again, I would kind of let them, if you can start laying the foundations for solid communication with them now, it'll be a lot easier the older that they get, where they can feel okay with talking about certain things, because they might not feel okay with talking about their dad if there's all this tension between you guys, and they don't want to talk bad about their dad, or you know, those kinds of things. So, and kids are funny too, because their parents, right, are like, they're 50% their dad, they're 50% you. And so they're always going to have some sort of like kind of loyalty to both of their parents, kind of for that reason, because it's really hard to say, well, this person is really toxic and needs to be cut out of my life, when they're like half of who you are. And so then I think kids especially kind of wonder, well, what does that mean about me? If my dad is such a jerk, then what is it about me? And then I think too, they often internalize that behavior, and they think, well, kind of, well, what is it about me? Why is all of a sudden I'm not good enough? Or why am I not lovable? Right? Especially when the parent just has that light switch approach to kind of his kids, and he's going to court and all that. So to kind of try to address that ahead of time, and just say, like, it's not you guys. Like, your dad is really saying a lot of hurtful things. He's doing a lot of hurtful things. I'm really sorry. This has absolutely nothing to do with you. I am so sorry that you guys are going through this. It's not fair, and it's not right. And it's okay for you to be mad at your dad, and it's okay for you to be mad at me. And I'm sure you've got a lot of emotions going on right now, but I'm your mom, and we can talk. We can talk about stuff like this. There's nothing that you can say that I can't handle. And to kind of just let them know that it's okay. If they're really having a lot of anger towards you, which there's a very solid chance that they are, that you can handle that and address it. And that's just the unfortunate part, I think, of being the solid, stable parent who's left to pick up all of the damage from this. And there's a ton of it, as you well know. Let's see, is there anything else? I think that's kind of all I have for you. I will be really curious to see what everybody else has to say. And I really wish you guys all the best. And maybe to the child psychologist, that's a fantastic that you're doing that. My guess is that this person is probably also helping develop coping strategies, alternative coping strategies for your kids. This would be some great questions for them as well. And, as far as coping strategies go, I think, I touched on this a little bit, but like, you can do certain things to kind of redirect them, to kind of slow things down for them by saying, you can get them into an activity where they can channel that anger. Martial arts is fantastic for this. So it helps them focus on their breathing. It helps them slow things down. There's physical movement, that kind of thing you can do. Telling them, okay, your kids are old enough where they can identify ways that they're going to cope with stuff too. And so you can say, okay, if you guys are mad, it's totally okay to be mad. Totally okay. I would be mad too if I was in your situation. So let's not try to like just not be mad, but let's figure out what we're going to do with those feelings when they come up. So maybe that means that you tell me, hey mom, I'm really upset right now. I need to go to my room and turn up my music really loud for like the next 20 minutes. Or I just don't want to talk to anybody right now, and I'll come out later. But so where they're starting to learn to like articulate what is going on, instead of just shutting down and like shutting off from you and from everybody else. So kind of using this as a whole like life lesson about how to deal with feelings in the most constructive way possible. In helping brainstorm them. I'm sure there's lots of good books out there on helping kids develop different coping strategies. But like I said, I will tell you my own experience. What really worked wonders, I think, with reaching kids, was just making them realize that they were important and that their feelings were important. I think adults, we forget how hard it is to be a kid. And it's really hard to be a kid. You don't have power and control over anything in your life. You have to eat the food that people give you. You have to go to school. You have to just deal with other people's choices. And it sucks. So to kind of just, validate that with them and make them feel important as much as you can, and giving them quality time, that just does volumes as far as helping kids move through stuff. So that's what I got. I will be curious to know what everybody else has to say. Check the comments down below. And as always, any questions, comments, concerns, frustrations, ideas for videos, insights, you have some, opinions or anything, you need some support, you just want to say hi, let me know. Again, contact info is down below. And as always, you guys are not alone. You're not crazy, and you really can heal from this. Take care and have a great night. Bye.